The following podcast is a presentation of Project Entertainment Network.
Napoleon. How are you enjoying your stay in the past?
I mean, I kind of just got here. Kind of disappointed I couldn't find any Crystal Pepsi, but I'm stocked up on Josta.
That explains why you look like you haven't slept for 3 days.
More like 4, but, I'm finishing up this piece on Mario Paint.
Is that supposed to be me?
Yeah. And hey, Duran Duran is coming into town June 10th, so there's that to look forward to.
You've already bought tickets, haven't you?
Yep.
I don't think the Temporal Mitigation Agency had such frivolities in mind when they sent you back.
Yeah, I'm kind of unclear on exactly what it is I'm supposed to be doing. I mean, aside from finding the second cylinder and all, haven't seen it, by the way. But I'll have loads of free time to look for it now that I don't have to edit my stupid podcast anymore.
Is that so?
Well, yeah. I mean, that kind of thing doesn't even exist yet, so, what you gonna do?
Perhaps I could offer you a diversion of sorts. Follow me.
Okay, I guess.
This way. Just a little further now. Here we are.
It's my apartment in the underworld.
Yes, it took some persuasion. But the good people at the Temporal Mitigation Agency agreed to let me set up this conduit, allowing you passage from 1995 to the present. And look, your editing desk. Oh, how it missed you.
Yay.
I have a whole bevy of delightful guests lined up for you this season. Creative types who do more with their time than play Mario Paint.
You don't really play Mario Paint exactly.
Trust me when I say, Napoleon, that it would be physically impossible for me to care less. Perhaps you can burn off some of that Josta coursing through your bloodstream by interviewing tonight's guest, comic book creator Mike Freiheit.
I don't have a choice, do I?
I trust you know the answer to that by now.
Yeah, just let me set up. Let's go to commercial, I guess.
I figured out what it all means. I can solve the whole thing. I can fix it all. I just have to explain to people about how men and women are different, but we're the same. And I can destroy the patriarchy because this is all an illusion.
Yeah, that sounds great, honey, but when was the last time you slept?
You aren't listening to me!
After suffering a psychotic breakdown triggered by the election of a powerful demagogue, Beth follows her husband Jason to a remote cabin where the two try to make their own world in spite of the increasingly volatile political climate. While the couple are trying their best to overcome Beth's break from reality, otherworldly arbiters conspire to change their lives forever.
You can't run anymore, Beth.
What?
You have to die under hell.
No!
It's the only way out of
What the
this.
hell?
New from Birdcage Bottom Books, Woods is a horror story that confronts the traumas surrounding a loved one's battles with mental illness, questions the struggle of individual engagement in the collective, and imagines the possibilities of a world that transcends beyond earthly understanding. Woods by Mike Freiheit, birdcagebottombooks.com.
And now, on with the show.
Don't be scared now, but it looks like you just wandered straight into U-Mind country. That's U-Mind, short for unaffiliated mind games, and you ain't never gonna be the same again. Brace yourself. It's time for a red-hot truth injection. Oh yeah, that's right. We're rounding up the sheeple and shaking them awake. You mind? Too damn bad. We're gonna set fire to the wool over your eyes. Feel the burn, baby. Hot damn. We're toppling the lies of the lamestream media one by one. Woo-wee. Watch them bad boys fall. Hey, Universe A, this is Universe B calling, and we're gonna tear you a new one. You mind?
Okay, everybody. Hey, we are here with Mike Freiheit. Mike is a well-traveled artist and writer with sort of a unique style and perspective. You've just heard the ad for his graphic novel Woods from Birdcage Bottom Books. Hey, Mike, how are you doing?
I am good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. So we're going to talk about several of your works, but I have to tell you that the first time that I read The Woods, it just really gave me the chills. It's
Cool.
It's a fantastic piece. It's a horror story, but it doesn't really rely on the usual monsters or slasher type of horror tropes. It's really more psychological. So
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of my work in my I guess in my career has been a lot about mental health stuff. So um, this is my first like long form horror story, and I just knew it kind of had to be based off of something that was real, or someone's perception fraying, or just being completely based in some sort of reality, but then these kind of weird things popping in. If that makes any sense. Maybe I'm not explaining it quite correctly.
no, it was great. It had shades of Rosemary's Baby, shades of 12 Monkeys. It's that kind of horror where you're never sure, like, should I be rooting for this character or are they horrible? That kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I guess that's the kind of horror movies I like, or stories that I like, where it's like you're always kind of questioning. Um, do you have a narrator that's, or a protagonist even, who is being truthful, or like what am I presenting to you as the author? Is it real, or is everything that you're seeing kind of a fabrication, or is it both? Maybe is it real and it's also some sort of metaphor or something?
Yeah.
And I guess I definitely have my own views about the story, but I also just kind of wanted to create it in a way where people could have several interpretations, or have their own interpretation, and kind of just make up their own story, or make up their own idea of what's actually going on, and just giving them enough to kind of like lead them this way or that way, but not be super strict about where the outcome would land.
Yeah. And what I think is so interesting about that is really every person who reads it's going to have a different perspective. It's going to be a different story for everybody. And
Yeah.
There is a really strong undercurrent of social commentary in all of your pieces that I've noticed. And
Yeah. I don't know. For me, it's kind of, especially with Woods, pretty much everything I've done before Woods was more like autobiographical and stuff like that. But even with that stuff, it was social commentary, and that it was happening to me or someone I knew. With Woods, I started writing this in 2016 actually. I just came up with an idea that I was like, well, I want to write a horror story, and I was finishing up my book. I was finishing laying out and writing my book Monkey Chef, which is like this much larger autobio story. And I knew I wanted to write this horror story, and I was like, okay, two people go out into the woods to try and get away from everything, because everyone talks about getting away from things and buying that cabin in the woods or whatever. I was like, okay, they're gonna try and have it be sustainable. And then a lot of like really rough things happened. I mean, not only the election of Captain Shithead, but it's also crazy talking about this today of all the days, and just how crazy today is with everything that's going on.
So for
but anyway,
people listening in the future, I guess we should explain that
Yeah.
there was the storming of the White House today by Trump supporters.
A bunch of cool guys, cool white guys. Jesus. Anyway, sorry. So yeah, I think I started writing it in 2016, and then a lot of like pretty rough things happened in my life where my wife was actually institutionalized in a psych ward, and a bunch of stuff like that happened. So I had like this kernel of a story, and then that happened with her, and I kind of folded that into what the story was, and then all the social commentary stuff. I guess it was just kind of background for me, like kind of like background noise in these people's lives. It's really is about two people, like they've got this schism in their life, in their marriage, in their relationship, and they're trying to kind of repair it. But I guess there's some things where, to me, you can kind of go beyond things, and maybe the relationship has to change, but some things you can't, or it has to grow into something new. So that old relationship isn't really going to be there anymore. It has to evolve into something. That could even be a decent interpretation of the book, that it is just about them. It has nothing to do with any of these other sort of aspects. But yeah, I wanted the social kind of or political stuff to just kind of be in the background, because it just kind of felt right to have that always be all encompassing, even for this couple who, they try and go out to the woods, but they're still, the outside world is still creeping in. There's no way to stop it from stop it from coming in.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it creates just this really dynamic setting that's really interesting. And because of sort of the strange things that are going on, you never know if it's just being provoked. The characters a lot of times have the news on, so they're constantly feeding that into themselves. And is that affecting the characters? Is that changing their perspective? Now, I also read Animal Kindness from Monkey Chef, the volume 2.
Yeah.
And that seems to share a lot of themes with Woods.
Yeah, that's there's like quote unquote demons in that,
Mm-hmm.
and I had another friend who had some serious mental health issues, and when people present you with those things, it's like you want to believe them as much as you can, but you also want to help them or get them to a
Sure.
place where they're safe. So I guess that's one of the biggest ones. I made that like 6 years ago. That was
Yeah.
like 6 years ago when I made that, and yeah, I've just always been kind of fascinated with that mental health stuff, and I guess trying to put a face to things that are terrifying. That's my
Mm-hmm.
kind of horror, where it's those mental health issues, and trying to visualize it or show these things that can't really be seen. And just turning them into these actual creatures.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I struggle with my own mental health stuff as well, but I've also had a lot of people in my life who have struggled with, in some ways, a lot more severe iterations. So I guess, yeah, for me, a lot of these stories, or a lot of my comics are about like figuring it out for myself.
Sure.
It's almost like half story, half essay to myself or something, to try and figure out like, what the hell was that, or like, how do I feel about that?
Well, it's definitely, art's always been sort of a therapeutic experience,
Yeah, I think it definitely can be.
Yeah.
Half therapeutic and half trauma inducing.
That's true. So to give people a little background on the story of Monkey Chef and Animal Kindness, in 2010, you moved to South Africa to work at a primate sanctuary. So,
Yes.
and have you just always been really passionate about primates, animals, things like that? That's a really big decision for somebody to make.
Yeah, it was pretty drastic. I don't know if I didn't send you the graphic novel, which I didn't send you. Did I send you this?
I got volume 2. I can actually grab it. It's behind me. And
Oh, okay.
I have this one right here.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah, this one is like the graphic novel that came out 2 years ago, and it's different from everything that's in that issue and the first one.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, 2010. As far as like being into primates, I guess I was at art school until like 2007. I went to School of Visual Arts in New York, and I was just drawing a lot of like paintings and drawings, or making a lot of paintings and drawings with primates, like different kind of primates, interacting in this kind of weird fantasy world.
Mm-hmm.
Not Yeah, weird like fantasy world with like humans and stuff. And I guess I just loved how lower primates mimicked humans, and I just loved drawing their bodies. I wanted to learn more about them, and so I guess I signed up to this mailing list that the University of Madison, Wisconsin sends out. They have a huge primatology department, so you'd sign up for this list, and they'd send out different primate jobs that you could, or volunteer work or whatever. And I was on it for like 3 years. I was at this shitty job at a print shop in Long Island City, Queens. I was just miserable after art school. I wasn't doing anything that I wanted to do other than like making a comic here and there, but I was mostly just working and toiling for no reason. And I kept checking this list, and I saw this opening, and I just applied for it and got it, and then I just decided to move.
Oh, wow.
So I guess I haven't always been into like primates or monkeys, but it was more recent, and then it just seemed like a good idea to get the hell out of where I was. So kind of random and kind of maybe a little predetermined.
Yeah, just a change of environment. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I ask because when I was younger and I had saw Gorillas in the Mist with Diane Fossey, and and I was really thought I wanted to be a primatologist for a very long time. Only to discover I'm horrified of chimpanzees.
Sure, yeah. Chimps are terrifying.
Yeah, they're like 2-year-olds with the strength of 10 men. So
yeah,
it's a lot.
They scare me too. I don't think I would ever be able to work with chimps just because I don't know. I don't even think we should be around chimps, honestly.
Yeah. But then from Diane Fossey, I went to Jane Goodall, which of course is where the chimps are, and it's it was a lot, but I think that's got to be a really interesting field for you to have been in and seen a lot of things. And you, outside of like just the primates, you were there during the time of Robert Mugabe, I believe, or post Mugabe.
Mugabe was still, I think he was still.
Is it till 2016?
I'm not sure, to be honest.
Yeah,
but
not
yeah, he was still.
either.
I mean, he was in Zimbabwe though, so there's a lot of people. He was the president of Zimbabwe, or whatever you would call it.
There's a lot of refugees who are coming out of that.
Yeah, they were coming. They were headed south from Zimbabwe. So, yeah.
And that's. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, well, the reason I bring it up is because it kind of plays into the storyline, and that was a real life horror story. If people aren't familiar with Mugabe, without talking too much about the things that he did, there's a lot of human atrocities, and you actually got to see the mental scars that it left on people.
Yeah. My friend Michael in that issue you're talking about, you could definitely tell there's like mental health stuff, but then there's just things that had happened to him that probably exacerbated everything. So, he's a very sweet person, and it just because there's other workers there too, who are from Zimbabwe, and they didn't share the same sort of like scars, but you can definitely tell that life had really messed with them. But Michael was a special case in that he was just had a lot going on, and yeah, it was definitely I'm not quite sure what to say, but yeah, I was just thinking about Michael. I haven't thought about him in a while, actually, so this is interesting to talk about it. It was definitely a real life horror story for sure.
And what you brought up, that Michael's a very sweet guy, I think that's one of the things that people need to sort of understand about mental illness is it's not a personality trait. It's a person can be very sweet, very giving person, but they have this inner battle that's going on. And, you have to kind of.
It's like. So. Yeah, it's like any other disease that you can't control. It's something like if you had something that was more of like a physical thing, like cancer or something, you wouldn't tell someone like, oh, stop doing that or stop doing this or whatever. So it's, I think if people can look at it more like that and just like kind of manage things like that, manage symptoms or trying to alleviate those symptoms instead of just being like, oh, they're crazy and they did this, so they must be evil, or they've got demons inside of them or whatever. It's like it's just not true. I mean, it's just something they've been afflicted with. It's not a character trait. Yeah, like you said, it's not inherent to their character or how they are as a person.
Yeah. That a lot of the countries in Africa have had issues with suppression of journalism. Under sort of the Kagame regime in Rwanda, we saw a lot of journalists being suppressed forcibly for having opposing voices. And then that kind of brings me back to Woods, where they're listening to the radio. That's really their only connection to the outside world. You have a couple, for background on Woods, a couple moves out to a cabin, and sort of their connection to the outside world is their phone and the radio. And that's much. And so their only understanding what's going on from the outside is the media. And it kind of brings up that idea, like, if that is your concept of the world if that's what's painting your concept, then it becomes kind of like the cave of shadows. Is it Socrates? It was actually Plato. Sorry about that. But where you're only observing the shadows that are coming into the cave, and you're not observing the outside world. So that
right.
And which I think was really interesting, because you have these people who are just functioning as their own unit, but in so many ways they don't have this outside viewpoint. They don't have this outside perspective, and it becomes really awakened when you hear the conversation between Beth, who is one of the lead characters, and her sister. That there's this schism, and that increases more and more as the story goes on. So you talked somewhat about having personal experiences that were in the back of your mind when you were developing Woods, and those personal experiences and things like that. Were you actively trying to communicate a message with Woods, or was it really just more of a concept that developed from what had gone on in your life, and it was sort of your story to share?
I mean, specifically the stuff that had happened in my life, I didn't want to do autobio just because I didn't want to do another sort of like autobio piece. Like, this is what happened. This is what happened to me. I wanted to make like a fictional story that was heavily influenced. So I guess, sorry, can you repeat the question? Like what?
Oh,
what?
Sorry. I guess my question is, just because you are such an autobiographical author, was there a specific message that you were trying, something you were trying to communicate specific? There's a lot of notes of existentialism in it, like the personal responsibility of somebody and how your actions impact everybody around you. Was there an intentional message, or was it more just you taking these events and it kind of became a story? It all just culminated.
I think, I don't know if there's like a message, but I think you definitely can't escape from anything, even if you do try and go out to the woods, or you do have like some sort of very particular way of getting out of society, or like anything like that. I just think you can't escape in one way or another. So I guess that's in there. I didn't want to hammer it too much. Was making it, because I really did want it to be this kind of like, to me also it's kind of a fantasy piece to me, because I feel like I kind of made it to when I was developing it, and right up until I finished it, I was kind of trying to figure out like, okay, is this real? And to me, everything that's happening is real. So that's kind of how I wanted it to be. Like, I wanted to play out that it was this actual like fantastical scenario that was happening, and then everything else you could read into, which I don't know if is good or if it ruined it, but that's why I never want to hear from the author like, what was your intent or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Here I am saying it.
Well, I apologize. We can skip that if you
No,
like.
no. I mean, I wasn't saying anything like that. I just mean like for me, I never want to hear because like then it, like you know it influences what
Oh yeah.
your read on it is. Um, no, sorry, I wasn't saying like that to be. No. But yeah, I don't think there was like other than just like I don't think you can get away from things. That was maybe the only like really clear message to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure. What about you? What did you think? If there was a message, what would you pull from it?
A message. I really think it's that you just have to listen to other people, regardless of if what they're saying is crazy or ridiculous. You're just like, okay, there's got to be a kernel of truth. There's got to be some reason that they came to that, and you can't just automatically go like you're crazy, you're an idiot, or there has to be some reason that they came to that realization, and listen to them and try to understand their viewpoint, and why they arrive at these notions that we might just think are really out there. So
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, I mean, I can think of several examples that are
mhm.
happening right now in the world where I'm like, that's fucking nuts. I don't know how you could how you could think that or what reality you're in. But um, sometimes I'll do like a Wikipedia kind of like K-hole, and I'll just like go to one thing that's like I was looking up QAnon, which
Oh
QAnon to
yeah.
me is like, oh my god, this is like bananas. And then I went and I read the whole Wikipedia article, and I started doing research on it, which I don't know how healthy, I don't know how healthy that is to like go and do a deep dive into that stuff. But it's like there are like some things where it's like, okay, I can see that, and then it's like it goes so far to somewhere where it's just like, what the hell are you talking about?
Hmm.
So yeah, I could definitely see that being a theme or a message for sure.
Yeah. And I think that in your comic, I'm going to have to censor myself a little here. Go F myself, the effing, that you approach that in almost a more light-hearted way. Your social commentary, again, is there. And one of the themes that sort of just is interlaced through all of that is that new ideas, even when they have merit to them, usually fail to be recognized by the status quo, either because they're just too far off or people are too disgusted by it. And that was really something that was interesting, and I guess it made me wonder, like as an artist and writer, which is a pretty unique situation to be in, where you're in total control of your story. Is that something you've had to battle with publishers, with other people who are reading your stories, or is that something you found yourself struggling with? The fact that you're kind of presenting something that's fairly different, a very independent view in the
Hmm.
comics world.
Um, I guess yes and no. I guess I've never quite fit in any sort of like different like um, group of cartooning or comics. Like, I grew up reading superhero books, and I'm definitely don't fit over there.
Right.
And now I read more like independent stuff. And I also grew up reading that stuff. But in a lot of ways, I don't fit in those like those circles. I mean, to me, and also uh, with go f myself as you said. I'm not sure. Should I not be swearing? I'm not
You
sure.
you can swear. I'm not swearing because I have as of right now 8 nieces and 2 nephews who might wander into the show because I'm in it, and I
Oh,
don't.
okay.
So you can do it, but I don't want them to think that it's okay for me to do it. That's really my
Okay,
only
yeah,
reasoning.
right. I can be the the crazy uncle. Um, uh, yeah, I mean, so I don't quite fit in certain areas, and I don't quite fit over here. I don't quite fit over there, or whatever. So that's always been kind of a thing. I mean, that's a theme in most of my books, anyways. Not quite fitting somewhere, and I mean, I guess my only kind of cure to that is trying to be true and make the work I want and make my own place for myself. Which I think a lot of people have to do when they just want to tell a certain kind of story that maybe they haven't seen done before, or just something that I don't know. That's a hard question. That's like super loaded. Um, I guess I have struggled with. I mean, in the back of my head, I'm always wondering, like, does anyone know the fuck I'm talking about? And so, I guess that is a thing with publishers. My first book, Monkey Chef, a love story, was published by Kilgore Books, and they, they really got it. And then Woods, they really got it. So the more I've gone on, and I guess the better my work has gotten, and the more clear I've been about things, and kind of my vision, if you want to call it that. I feel like people have kind of been more receptive, or maybe I just bothered them a lot, and they're like, "Okay, we'll put this out. We'll we'll put it out just so you stop bugging me." But yeah, I mean, I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah. I
I
think
might
that.
be rambling.
No, I think that rambling is the nature of podcasts. Like this is.
Yeah, that's true.
It's an unscripted conversation. So people want to hear you rambling. They want to hear where your mind is going. And I think that's why it's so advantageous that you are both the artist and the writer, because we are not only hearing your voice, but we're seeing what you're kind of visualizing. And your art style is so unique. I know you said you went to art school, but your art style, it definitely marks it as your piece. And I don't even know that there's like a comparison that could be made to another artist out there. It's so individualistic to you. But I also noticed that it's a far cry from what the standard comic style is. I mean, you're not drawing like Kirby or anything like that. So,
Right.
It has it been important to you that you maintain a style that you've developed? Or is that just kind of how you draw? You know?
I think it's just kind of how I draw it. I can't get away from it even if I wanted to. And I've definitely had influences and stuff that gets like tucked away in the back of your brain. I think that comes out, but I haven't really like consciously been like set out to be like I'm a huge fan of Charles Burns and Black Hole and that stuff. And I'm a brush inker. I just love inking with a brush. And so there's definitely some sort of Charles Burns in there, but I would never want to be like that tight or that maybe anal about my lines. Even though I love him, but there doesn't need to be another Charles Burns. He's already done it, but that kind of like voluptuous kind of line work and brushiness is something that really appeals to me. So I'm sure that got stuck back in there somewhere, right? And then that comes out maybe in a different way. So, I mean, I agree. I don't know anyone else whose work looks like mine in one way or another. But yeah, I never tried to be like, I'm going this way with my style. I'm going that way. It's kind of like I draw like this, and this is kind of what this is kind of what happens when I put pencil to paper.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wish I could be like, I wish I was like, some people can like mimic other people, or they're amazing draftsmen, so they can just like look at something and then like kind of take what they need from it and then either add it to their style or draw exactly like it. I'm always a little jealous of that, because I'm like, wow, that's so cool that you can just like take it and like copy it or copy what you like from it and then add it to yourself or replicate it. Yeah, definitely. I just draw the way I draw.
Yeah. No, it's really excellent. And I have to quote Ryan Carey does the afterword in Woods, as he says, the way that you frame your panels and your characters is extremely cinematic. And I was noticing that too, like you're watching it and you're reading this and you could see it visually. You can see where the characters are moving towards, which is really what makes an effective comic. And it made me think, is film an inspiration that you draw from?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think it's probably the thing is, I don't read that many comics right now, and I feel like I watch movies more and more, and I've always watched films or TV series or whatever, especially like horror movies or anything like that. And I never really studied like cinematography or anything, but for some reason it just got stuck in my head. And after a while, it just kind of came natural that like using different shots and using these, different ways of affecting how the viewer is going to read something. But yeah, definitely film has been a huge influence on me, maybe in some ways more than comics.
Yeah.
Even though I grew up, reading comics. But Yeah, for sure.
Are there any films in specific that you can think of, like really you took something away from or really had an impact on you?
Uh, there's probably some pretty obvious ones for Woods in particular. Like, when I was in high school, maybe late high school, Donnie Darko came out,
Yeah.
and which I still think is an amazing movie. I actually think it's gotten better because the way you go back to it, it's a little less juvenile and it's a lot more funny actually than I remembered it being. It's actually really hilarious and scary, and also deals with mental health. That was a huge one. I'm trying to think. This is like, for sure. Have you ever seen The Fisher King?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Terry Gilliam. Kind of depicting scenes of mental illness or something that's emotive, something emotional happening, and it kind of breaks the barriers of what's happening in the film or in the comics. So, maybe something's very orderly and there's a conversation, but then it ramps up and like everything kind of explodes. Maybe it's color, or maybe it's the way the panel is broken, or maybe it's the way the shot kind of breaks into the panel that was preceding it. Just kind of these like wild sort of bits of like emotion that come out of very ordinary everyday things, which is something I try to do too. I kind of add something very benign or something very like mundane, right? People talking, and then something happens, and just like everything just gets nuts, and trying to show that, and like also just really trying to like overplay it too. But yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. I want to talk about a project that you have now. It is American Cult. The American Cult anthology has been released now.
I think it's coming out in a couple of months. It was supposed to come out last October, but I'm actually not quite certain when it is coming out. I think it's like 2 months, but I'm not sure.
So that's really interesting to me because you illustrated a short strip about the Jonestown massacre for that, and you were actually handpicked by Robin Chapman and Brian Carey to be the illustrator for that.
Yeah.
So that's a big honor.
Yeah, it was cool. I've only done a handful of things with other people where it's like they write something and then I draw it. I do some freelance illustration for some magazines and stuff where I'll do some strips for like short comics or whatever. But it was interesting to do something longer form. I think it's like 20 pages or something, the Jonestown story. It was interesting to work off someone's script and kind of just get what they wanted and then sort of take that and make it into my own thing. And also the take that Ryan wrote, which seems to be a lot more factual than what a lot of people hear about Jonestown, was really interesting. There's a lot of without going into it too much. There's a lot of people who think that Jonestown was this mass suicide, but there's also a lot of evidence that says it was a lot of murder, just hardcore crazy murder. So read it when it comes out, folks. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. So
yeah, it was really interesting to draw and kind of I don't know, put yourself in the headspace of people that like we were talking about earlier, like people who get kind of wrapped up in an idea, or they get wrapped up in this thing that it could be happening, or it might not be reality, but you kind of try and take them at their word or whatever. So cults kind of do that too, where they kind of, you get wrapped up in this thing, and you're like, oh, I could never get wrapped up in a cult or whatever. But it seems like everyday people and just quote unquote regular people get wrapped up in cults all the time. So it was interesting to like put myself in that place and try and draw from that.
Yeah.
And also just Jim Jones was like, whoo, he was a piece of work.
He was. Yeah. I actually was listening to a podcast that Stephanie Harlow had actually done. She's a true crime podcaster, where she was talking about, and just like from little up, he's just this like manipulative force that gets people to fall in line with his wishes. And almost just almost supernatural kind of, which is what he portrayed himself as being, obviously. But
right. which makes me wonder if that's not just like kind of how sociopaths begin. There's just from a very young age that they learn to like try and manipulate people.
Mhm. You just kind of stumble on the tricks, and they're like, "Well, that worked really well. Let's try that again. Let's push the envelope. Let's see how far we can take this." And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, it's like they're masters at understanding human nature, or like
Hmm.
body language, or all these things, or like knowing how people tick. And in better hands, you could be like a really good person, and then with someone with the tendencies that Jim Jones had, you just become a total monster.
Yeah. I am curious about the creative process that goes into creating illustrations for something that is really such like a horrifying event in human history. It's did you do a lot of research? Did you read a lot of books, watch a lot of documentaries? How did you go about that?
Mostly articles online, and then there's this huge photo library
Mhm.
of Jonestown, like actual photos that people took, members of Jonestown took. I can't remember the name of the website, but if you search for it, you can find it.
Yeah.
Just tons and tons and tons of old photos of the grounds and like the people there and like what they were doing. Some of them working, and then there's like the obvious ones of like very high aerial photography of like all the bodies at the end. It wasn't fun to do
Mhm.
research for it. I'll tell you that much. um, and then also just like researching Jim Jones's life and like different areas in San Francisco, and like I think he was in Texas for a while. He was like all over the place because he
Yeah.
was kind of one of those charlatans. But yeah, lots of research, lots of Google image searches, that photo archive. I started watching a couple of documentaries, but some of them just aren't very good.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, mostly like online research for a lot of it. Ryan had done most of the research, so that kind of freed me up to just stick to like the images. There's definitely some things I had to like you know figure out for myself, but yeah, he put a lot of work into it because he's read a lot about it.
Mhm. Yeah. Now, do you like submit like a rough sketch, like a thumbnail of what you're going to be doing, and then he kind of tells you from there, or do you really just put in a full piece of artwork and just send it off?
Yeah, there's like I think one or two rounds of thumbnails or like layouts, kind of rougher sketches, and then just to let the Robin and Ryan get the idea, and then maybe a few little revisions, but nothing too crazy. And then I would just go into doing the finished artwork and kind of showing those pages like as we went along. And yeah, definitely always starting with a thumbnail though, something very very rough.
Very cool. So yeah, that's definitely something I'm interested in picking up once it comes out. So where will people be able to grab it?
So I think right now it should be in previews and like comic stores. I know Silver Sprocket, which is an indie publisher,
Hmm.
they're co-publishing it with Robin, um, and I think her publishing or her little outfit is called Paper Rocket. So it'll be Paper Rocket and Silver Sprocket.
Nice.
So yeah, it should be in previews, and then yeah, you can order it online, or
Great.
any decent comic shop will have it.
Very good. But yeah, your work is very inspirational, and
Oh,
yeah, I loved it. Woods is definitely one of my favorites now. I'm recommending it to anybody who is out there listening, and pretty much anybody who bumps into me is going to hear about it. So
cool. Thanks.
it was a
That's good
fascinating
advertising.
story. Yeah, it was really great. And can you whet our appetites for any future projects that you might be working on?
So I'm working on a couple right
Hmm.
now. Well, there's a Jonestown thing that comes out in a couple of months, I think. I wish I knew the actual release date. And then, so the one you mentioned earlier, Go Fuck Myself, I sent
Hmm.
you the second one. And there's actually three of them. I finished the third one last year in the summer. And that's going to be released as like a um, Well, it's called Go Fuck Myself, the Fuck Pendium. So it's all 3 issues stuck together. So that'll be coming out probably like March. I'm thinking. The Kickstarter for that will probably go live this month, and that's going to be through Kilgore Books. And then I'm working on another long form story called Indoor Boy, and it's going to be a YA book about. Well, it's kind of in between autobio and like kind of what I did with Woods, where it's inspired greatly by how I grew up when I was a kid. I was homeschooled and bullied a lot because I was like a fat kid. So I read a lot of comics and anime and stuff. So there's going to be a lot of stuff from my life, and then it's going to be telling the story of this indoor boy. So I'm working on that now. I'm just doing the layouts for that now, and yeah.
Cool. So that's very exciting. Now, where can people get a hold of you and find your work?
So it's just my first name, last name on Instagram, or my website is first name, last name, MikeFreiheit.com. Kilgore Books. I mean, you really have to just do a search for my name on Google. You can find pretty much anything. Kilgore Books has Monkey Chef, or you can get it. I think you can get it through Amazon. Woods you can get through Birdcage Bottom, and then there's several different like indie distributors that also sell my stuff. Radiator is a really good one. Radiator Comics, they sell a lot of really cool indie comic stuff. But yeah, if you just do a search for my name, if people know how to spell it, it'll bring up ways to buy things.
It's
contact me or
Freiheit. So
that's right.
That is for anybody listening. And it's going to be in the credits. It's going to be like in the description box. So you should be able to find it. And if you don't find it there, then write me and I can send it to you. Send last name, links, all that good stuff. So, all right. Thank you so much, Mike. It was a pleasure talking to you. Fun. All right. Special thanks to Mike Freiheit, and you can check him out at MikeFreiheit.com, where you can check out all of his books, and I really recommend that you do, because he's an incredible artist, an incredible writer, and you are not going to be disappointed. You know who never disappoints me is Savage C. Wolnar, our legendary announcer. Yes, Savage starts us off on the right foot, and he really sets the tone for the whole show, doesn't he? Yes, indeed. The You Mind theme is by Demilitarized Zone. No, it's actually by Ethan Meixsell, and it's called Demilitarized Zone. But yeah, that also is a good thing. Patreon.com/LucidNap is where you can go if you'd like to support the show and help me learn how to speak better. BuyMeACoffee.com/LucidNap is where you can go for small one-time donations if you want to support the show that way, or just go to LostBreadComic.com and buy some of our crazy art, our crazy prints, crazy stickers. There should be more crazy coming pretty soon. I'm really trying, guys. I really am. I'll get new stuff up there at some point in the future. Follow us. That's what you can do if you don't want to give money or anything like that. You can just follow us, and you should check out Creeping Wave Radio. It's kind of what the beginning of the show was about, is it's linking to Creeping Wave Radio, which is the scripted audio drama that we do with some of the local San Diego musicians and talent. And yeah, it's kind of a passion project for me. You can check it out on this channel, and you can check it out in the links in the description below. And you really should, because it's really great. And I'm not just saying that because I work tirelessly on it to the point where, like, I get double vision and I just don't think I can go on any longer. And yeah, but you should definitely check it out because it's delightful. Also, in addition to all the other things, it is also delightful. No, it is. So thank you so much for watching, guys, and thank you for listening or whatever you're doing. Did you guys check out the animation at the beginning? If you weren't watching, you wouldn't have seen the animation, but you should go back and give it a look because I see it here working on it for you because I love you, and I love the Grammarica Show, Nikki Benfield, and Neil because they give me money. No, I love them because they are good, genuine people who are also our Patreons. Thank you so much, guys. The You Mind is brought to you by LucidNap Productions in cooperation with the Scary Old Man.
I'm not that scary.
Don't
I don't
be so.
try to be, but I just am.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Welcome to Wild Speculation, a podcast where each episode is a short story that explores one of the many strange, wonderful, and sometimes disturbing worlds of speculative fiction. You can find us at wildspeculation.buzzsprout.com, on the Project Entertainment Network, and wherever else you find podcasts. So sit back, enjoy the story, and let your imagination run wild.
This has been a presentation of the Project Entertainment Network.